Howdy, howdy, Sue Devil here, and welcome to our Game 5 preparation for our game with Clan Angren, the Dwarfs, against Chaos and Turin. Now, I'll go over the preparation that I did, the estimation of what army I thought Turin was going to bring, and how I planned for it. Now, I've been a fan of Turin for a very long time. I was an early subscriber, and he loves playing the Dwarfs. He played the Dwarfs even when they were the worst faction, and he's always played them. So he's just one of my favorites. If you're not subscribed to Turin, go over and subscribe right now. You'll love his channel, and you'll love how he plays the Dwarfs. He is a world-class tournament player, one of the top in the world. As far as his game goes, his micro is unbelievable. It is really amazing to watch, especially his click speed. Like, he can give 4 individual commands for his troops to go from A to B faster than I can do one. It is unbelievable how fast he is. And he pays a bit of a price for it in that he does have wrist problems, and he talks about it. He has to give his wrist time to rest between actually playing games, and you can see why when you watch his click rate. It is outrageous. And I actually had a chance to talk to a few people about Turin as well, just in casual chat. And one of the things that Black Iron noticed or talks about is Turin has a sixth sense for his routing units. Like, his micro is amazing as it is, but he has a feel for when a unit starts routing about when it's going to rally, and that is one of his great strengths, is really doing well at bringing back routing units and his micro on the edges, and especially in the pocket, and really developing his plans on the fly. Now, his playstyle, if you watch his channel, is very repeatable. Like, you can see exactly how he plays. He plays his alignments, and the concepts for his army are almost the same every time, no matter what army he's playing. I mean, something similar to that, and I'll go over his army. He has plenty of games with Chaos versus the Dwarfs, and I know what he likes and can estimate his army quite well because he has, I think, 900 videos online. I mean, it's just a wealth of information to research for preparing for this fight, and it is all interesting, and he comments on his thoughts. Like, one of the great strengths of his channel and his videos is not only is he a world-class player, but he's very good at explaining his thinking while he's playing, even if he's doing a live game. And during the selection phase and post-battle reports, he really considers his thinking. He's very good at forcing matchups that he likes and flanking and these types of things. So it's just amazing to watch, and I was really, really excited for this game. It's my only game with the Dwarfs. I want to play my very best and do my very best. So I'll go over the army that I expected Turin to have. And first, for anyone who's watched Turin play, for the Lord, there's no doubt he's going to pick Kolek. He's picked Kolek Suneater almost every time against the Dwarfs. This is the strongest pick, and he's very good at it. Now, I didn't know if he was going to have Foe Seeker or Standard Die. I didn't think so, because he likes to use Kolek to kind of go in the back, but he's definitely bringing Lord of the Storm. He's very good at getting off those 3 uses and picking the right targets with it. Didn't know about Star Crusher. Didn't think he was going to bring it. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. Most of the time he doesn't, actually. But Kolek Suneater was the obvious choice. He's going to bring Kolek. I was, 99% sure. He could, he talks about the Sethorel, the Everwatcher. He calls him like the battle chicken or stuff like that. And, but I, very, very unlikely. Now, because I'm playing Clan Angren and I have available to me these ethereal units, I brought them in case I was going to get a matchup against the Beastmen or, Bretonia or the Greenskins or these types of units that are going to have a hard time dealing with the fear and terror they cause. I expected him to also bring a Sorcerer of Death. Now, specifically so that he can get Spirit Leech, because Spirit Leech is devastating against these ethereal units. So I expected this load out the fate of Buna for my high value targets, And Spirit Leech for the items, he's probably going to bring the Forbidden Rod, probably not the Scroll of Shielding. He's going to keep his Sorcerer back just to cast his spells. For abilities, Life Leeching, Improved Power Recharge, yep. Evasion, probably not. He's not going to bring that Chaos into battle, so I didn't expect to see him on a Steed either, because what does he have to fear? No one's going to chase that Sorcerer down. So really that's the 2 units that I expected to see for his leadership. Now, he's very, very consistent in what he likes for his infantry line. He really likes these Chaos Warriors with great weapons in this matchup, 3 specifically, and 2 units of Forsaken for the edges. Now, he likes to put the Forsaken on the edges specifically to go up against Slayers and backline units like Rangers, artillery. They're fast flanking. So this is the infantry line I expected to see in the engagement. Now, he generally doesn't bring Chosen. Like, I've seen him bring Chosen a few times, but just because, chat want him to bring Chosen, they like Chosen, but he really doesn't like Chosen in the matchup because they're so expensive, the Chosen with great weapons, so they're vulnerable to Dwarf artillery and this sort of thing. So really, this is the infantry line I definitely expected. Now, he always brings 2 units of Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes against the dwarves, specifically to defend against gyrocopters. And the same with Chaos Warhounds with poison. He'll bring those 2 as well. That's a very consistent pick that he, this backline harass to defend against gyrocopters, to get around the edges and fight on that side. Now from here, it's a little wonky. He's not going to bring a Hell Cannon. I mean, he never does. He doesn't play artillery very often. Sometimes he'll play around with it just for fun, but he just doesn't play artillery. He could make a surprise pick in the Chaos Trolls. He's not going to bring a Dragon over Shaggoth, I don't think. Pharaoh Manticore, unlikely. Giant, unlikely. He could kind of go for something really strong like that to go after a Lord, but he doesn't really care about your Lords. He doesn't have to worry about fighting the Lords against the Dwarfs, so it's highly unlikely. The other thing that I've seen him bring a number of times is the Cavalry. So Chaos Knights, they are anti-infantry. So it is a possible choice in this battle, or a Gore-Beast Chariot, which is another generally strong choice. And I could see his backline including those 2 units. That's kind of basically the battle that I expected. Maybe he brings a couple Gore-Beast Chariots. More likely, maybe Chaos Knights. He doesn't like really expensive units in that they are pretty vulnerable. But I definitely expected it to be something like this. Like he could have gone through his thinking and just brought some good hard flanking units in the Chaos Knights. They can chase down infantry, do a ton of damage. They do have those shields, 120 armor, so they're not going to be really vulnerable to withering fire from the Daoi. And so kind of this is the army that I expected, something very close to this. Definitely Kolak and the Chaos Sorcerer of Death, definitely these 2 Marauder Horsemen, definitely the Forsaken and the Chaos Warriors with great weapons. Absolute, very, very sure that these guys were going to be on the battlefield. Not so sure about these Chaos Knights. He could, like I said, he could play around with Chaos Trolls, armored Chaos Trolls or something like that, but I highly doubt it. They're not going to be that great against the Dwarfs. Specifically because of Dwarven missile fire. He could bring something a little bit more beefy into his back line. Like sometimes he brings Aspiring Champions to put in that line. They have silver shields and do magic damage. He could bring those in this matchup to support his frontline engagement and to ensure that he has something with magical damage, and then bring Chaos Knights or the Chariot Gorby's Chariot, something like that. So really the units I wanted to, and his alignment is almost always the same. So I'm just going to go, like, I don't know what the rest of this 3,000 gold is going to look like, but I'm quite sure the bulk of his army, this is going to be what it's going to look like. So I'm going to go into the battle and show the alignment, because his alignment is always the same. Not always, I mean very, very consistent the way he likes to align his troops, and so I could be fairly confident that he was going to align them the same way in this fight as well, so that I knew sort of what to expect. Now, in general, he'll put his 3 units right up front, spread them out wide, give them a little bit of space, like so, and maybe just group them up, something like that. Then he will put his Forsaken on the edges, something like that, group them up, and Kolek will be somewhere in the middle, and his sorcerer will be back somewhere, and he'll put his Marauder Horsemen sort of together, and maybe a Chaos Warhound on each side, sort of like that. So that's really the fundamental alignment. He will always, almost always, line up dead center, right to the white line, and be ready to just, as soon as the battle starts, he'll click and he'll go. So this is what the basic gist of what I was preparing for in my preparation. So he might end up putting a couple units in the back here. Again, like I said, those aspiring champions might put 1 or 2 for the magic damage as well. So that was my expectation of the fight. Now, in preparing for this fight, one of the things that I wanted to do was well, I'm just going to switch this so that I can show the preparation. Okay, so we'll go to here and we'll get Kolek. Now, okay, so Kolek I definitely had to prepare for. So like I wanted to focus on 2 things specifically: Kolek, Sun Eater, and 3 things: Kolek, the Forsaken, and these Chaos Warriors with great weapons. I figure if I can bring an answer to these 3 questions, I can do fairly well. Now for Kolek's pretty difficult. I mean, he has 25% missile resistance, he causes fear and terror, but you can whittle him down pretty fast if you're focused. And this was the primary plan that I developed, is that I was going to try and focus down Kolek early and try and just get him out of the game. He's not going to let Kolek die, but to make it so he can't dive bomb the center of my formation. And so the units I was going to use, I'm going to bring that Rune Lord, so put him on his mount, and I know he's bringing magic, so I want that extra 15% magic resistance, and I want the Master Rune of Wrath and Rune. Not for what you think. Really, what I want that is for the minus 48% speed. I really wanted to muck up Kolek and make it so he was running through tar when he was in my front line. So the other unit that I wanted to match up against Kolek Sun Eater is the Ironbreakers. Now Ironbreakers have a ton of mass and they're very difficult to get through, and they have a charge defense against all. So these are the kind of the key formation. I wanted to wait until Kolek is in my front line and mucked up with these Ironbreakers, because he's not going to be able to move around fast. Use the Master Rune of Wrath and Rune, not for the damage but for the speed debuff, and then use all my units as effectively as I can to gun him down. So I'm just going to do a demonstration. I mean, when you're doing your testing, you got to isolate variables and this sort of thing. So I'm just going to get onto Glacial Lake, and so the units that I wanted to have in this fight are the Thunderers. I wanted the Bugman's Rangers on my edges, so to give edge pressure against those Chaos Warhounds, but really to put some damage into Kolek. And Uthar's Raiders specifically. Now, Uthar's Raiders have this marked by Uthar. It gives minus 24% missile parry, minus 22% missile resistance, and minus 30 armor. The idea was to let Kholek engage my line in these Iron Breakers so he's mucked up, put the speed debuff on him, and then spring the trap, where these guys all have stock, so he might not see them until the beginning, and then just go to town. So I'll demonstrate what is possible. Again, I'll make a plan, but people react to your plans. I mean, in multiplayer, it's not like a campaign where you can make a plan and execute it pretty easily, because you don't have a lot of defense. So I'll just put my Iron Breakers up there, and I'll take off Fire at Will and put them into melee mode, and put my Rune Lord behind, and get my Thunders sort of out, get my Thunders here, and these guys here, and my Uthar's Raiders here. So just to show the potential possibilities. So we'll actually get some shots in with these guys, but I want Fire at Will off with these guys so that I can sort of spring my trap. So hopefully the test works and Kholek comes into the fight here against the Iron Breakers. And this I can cast from a very long distance, so I don't need to be close with that Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin. But Kholek's going to come in perfectly to the, and he's going to start taking fire from these guys. You know, a fair amount. I'm going to put that Master, wait till he gets into my line. Put the Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin on him. Okay, go. And then take these guys and start firing on him. Put that marked by Uthar, and just try and get withering fire against them as quickly as I can. So you can see he's going to go down pretty fast, but he can't run around really easily against these Iron Breakers. They aren't taking a ton of damage, but with all that fire coming in very quickly, he's still got the Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin on him, that minus 48% speed, and you can see with all the fire coming in, you can really whittle him down quite quickly, and away he goes. Now, that's, you know, when you're testing, it never goes like your test when you're playing in multiplayer. You know, that's absolutely sure. But with that mark by Uthar on him, taking down his missile resistance and his armor, you know, what is his armor at? It's at 100. So the mark by Uthar is gone, but it takes it down by 30, so it'll be 70. The fire from these Bugman Rangers can actually be pretty effective. So, and the Uthar's Raiders doing that armor piercing damage and the armor piercing damage from the Thunders, again, are pretty effective. So once he's in the line against the Iron Breakers, this Rune Lord can cast the speed debuff, and away we go. Now, we'll just end that battle. And something that I want to also show, as I just want to do a quick rematch here and get my units back, is the Iron Breakers actually do reasonably well against Kholek in just a 1v1. I mean, they're... Let me just take Fire at Will off, put everyone in melee mode. So I'm just going to put the Iron Breakers up there, and we'll start the battle and make sure, I just don't want them to fire. But he'll come in, and he doesn't get a ton of damage, so I'll just get them attacking him. You know, he's going to do very well, but you know, the fight's going to be atrocious, and he's not going to sit in a pocket and fight against Iron Breakers for 10 minutes. I mean, that's not what he's going to do. But Iron Breakers are pretty robust against Kholek because they have that really high melee defense of 68, and they can really hold for a very long time, even with the magic coming. You know, they've got the Iron Breakers have 40% magic resistance, and Kholek doesn't do magic damage unless he's using his special hammer. But you can see they hold and hold and hold and hold. Their leadership is just fine, and they'll just keep on fighting for a very long time. And if he cycle charges, unless he hits them in the sides or the back, that cycle charge is going to do very little unless they're, you know, otherwise engaged. So the Ironbreaker are actually a very good unit to make it difficult for Kolek to run around, because they have very, very good mass. They had a big mass increase during the Tomb Kings release in January, and it's really been noticeable. So like I don't know, we'll keep it playing just out of curiosity to see if they can overcome. But he's exhausted, they're very tired, and when he's exhausted, his melee defense goes down, and his armor is not as useful. And you can see these guys are almost becoming even, and you know, he's winning slightly. You know, now it looks like the combat is even. They both got the brown cross on it, and the Ironbreakers are just, they're very, very good in this matchup for those multiple reasons. Plus they have their blasting charges, so their blasting charges are really quite good as well. And I'm just going to show what, like, I did a lot of testing against the Chaos Warriors specifically because I knew I was going to face them and what to bring. Now, aside from the Ironbreakers doing quite well in this matchup, so yeah, they lost, but you know, 75% of his health, you know, 66, so 2/3 of his health. So we'll just concede defeat, and I'll go over some of the other testing that I did to prepare and go over why I brought what I did. Now, when we've got these, I'll just get a Chaos Lord and just give his abilities off, and we'll get 3 Longbeards, 3 Longbeards with great weapons, 3 Ironbreakers, and 3 Hammers, just out of curiosity. Okay, so let's just take his abilities off. Okay, so there we go, 3, 3, 3. So these are the units I was really looking at to combat those Chaos Warriors with great weapons. Right here, 1, 2, 3. So I'll just go through and show you some of the testing I did. I have used Longbeards before in this matchup to really just hold the line, and that was a consideration because you can also make pretty good use of gyrocopters in the matchup. But we'll just get these basic Longbeards out front, you know, something like that. Okay, and I'll just group them up and get the fight going so we can see this testing I did. And we'll send them up against the Chaos Warriors with great weapons. Okay, so the Chaos Warriors with great weapons just absolutely demolish Longbeards. This is, you know, they can hold for a little while, but the Chaos Warriors with great weapons are just going to straight up win that fight 10 times out of 10, and they're only 100 more gold than the Longbeards. So you can see my Longbeards are all losing now, and in that fight, well, this one in the middle, really, we look at the outside edges, they're going to pull pretty good value against those Longbeards. You know, they're going to end up with sort of in that half health range. And I'll just stop here. These guys haven't routed, but the test is not going off. So the Longbeards are very much about to rout. The Chaos Warriors start with 6,700. You know, half is 32 and they're at 36. So they're going to be able to beat the Longbeards with half their health left. So that's a really good value proposition. And these guys, 3,400, over half health left, and the Longbeards are going to go. So I was reticent to bring Longbeards at all for that frontline engagement. So we'll just go and see defeat. Yeah. And we'll rematch. And we'll look at the Longbeards with great weapons. They're 750. They're a lot closer in value to the Chaos Warriors. So we can take a look at their performance in this fight. So we'll just put like something like this. Okay, make sure I group them, and away we go. So fight here, fight here, fight there. And you would think they would trade pretty well. I mean, these guys are more expensive, but the Longbeards are also armor piercing, so I mean, these all didn't go off right, but here's kind of the battle. So you see, yeah, they look like they're winning in one. Now they're even, and eventually they're going to just start losing, I think. Well, they look like they're winning again. They're losing big time over here. Of course they're losing in the middle because the Lord's in there. But this is just a reliable victory for the Chaos Warriors. And pretty fast, actually. So here's the first one is routed here. And he's one with way over half health. You know, 6,700. He's got 4,200 left. On this one, it's much closer, but still, I'm going to lose this, and he's going to have just under half health. And he's only 100 more expensive. So the Longbeards with great weapons, and I've said they're underperforming a little bit, you know, in multiplayer, because they had some nerfs. They had nerfs to their charge. Where is it? They had nerf to their charge bonus, I think, and their melee defense or melee attack and their weapon strength. They had two quick nerfs in succession. So it brought the Longbeards right to where they need to be, the regular Longbeards. But the Longbeards with great weapons, it's over-nerfed them slightly. It's not a massive amount, but it is noticeable. You know, like, this should never happen. Longbeards, you know, taking half health only. You know, this is more close, but I got 1,000 less HP for a unit that's only 100 less gold. It's still, those Chaos Warriors are getting a good bonus on that. So go take a look. Concede defeat. And rematch again, and we'll take a look at the hammers. Now, hammers are really good. They're really strong. The problem with hammers is they don't have charge defense, and they don't have as much mass as the Ironbreakers. So with the hammers, I'll just put them, they're going to win this fight very handily, but then they're going to get beat on. They're much more expensive than these Chaos Warriors with great weapons, and they actually do lose to Chosen. So God, I don't know why they're doing that.
For the High King. Axes out. Kill them.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll watch this test. The hammers are going to win, and you can see they're going to win quite handily. They've got a big charge bonus. They're going to win fairly fast. Now these guys are 1,100 versus the 850 of the Chaos Warriors, so they have to win pretty handily, and they're going to win on about where they should. They're 300 gold more, and they have kind of a little less than half their health. In these battles, we've got kind of half health, you know. So the hammers are a good choice on paper. The problem with hammers is that they don't have that charge defense against all. They don't have really great melee defense, so they could be a little susceptible to the Chaos Warhounds. They don't have shields, so they could be susceptible to the Marauders or the Horsemen with throwing axes, and they're not going to slow down. They're not going to slow down Kholek at all. So we'll just go to the last bit of testing. All right. And we'll look at the Ironbreakers. Now the Ironbreakers I tested, and for this fight I was actually surprised. You know, I just thought, well, I like them against Kholek, but how are they going to do in the frontline infantry engagement? You know, against those Marauders. And so we'll just put them out like this, something like so, and group them up so I know where they are. And we'll just let the fight come to us. Then these are going to do a fair amount of damage to the Chaos Warriors. You know, not too bad. And they're not going to take any charge bonus hits, so I just want to get these guys involved in the fight. So we got a bit of a 2v1 here with the Ironbreakers, and a 2v1 against the Ironbreakers and the Lord over here. So we'll just keep the fight going, and we'll get these guys fighting here, these guys fighting here, and they hold out really well, and they actually do really good damage to those Chaos Warriors. Like, you can see these guys are almost dead, and it's a 2v1 against these Ironbreakers, and the Lord is in there. So the Ironbreakers are actually really good in this fight, in that they're going to last for a very long time, even if they get 2v1 with Chaos Warriors. And so we'll just pause it, which is interesting. These guys have almost all their health. These guys have 3/4 of their health. These guys only have like, what is it, 8,000 health they start with, 7,200. So they have over 1/4 of their health. They've routed one unit and they've brought another unit down to half health, and they've been taking hits from the Lords. So I really like the Ironbreakers in this frontline engagement against the Chaos Warriors, because they're going to hold. They're going to muck up Kolek so he can't easily get around. Their blasting charges do matter. They're going to make a difference in that first bit of engagement. And you can see, even if they're stuck in a 2v1, they're still going to do pretty good. So I thought Ironbreakers are going to be pretty good in this fight. The other unit I wanted to prepare for, so I've got my backline units thought about and considered, and the other unit I was worried about was the let me see, let's get these guys gone, is those Forsaken. So he always brings Forsaken, and he wants to get them onto Slayers. You know, that's his goal, to get those Forsaken on Slayers and get that fight going. So I wanted to get to see which the best unit was. I did a lot of other testing, but I just want to show you how effective Longbeards are in fighting Forsaken. They're very good in this matchup, and Forsaken are 750, Longbeards are 760 or 650. So they're 100 gold less, and they're quite effective in this actual matchup. So we'll just, you know, put them out here and group them up. These guys here, these guys here, these guys here. Let's get my Rune Lord on the Chaos Lord, just for fun. And you'll see, really, they match up quite well. The Forsaken have a really good charge bonus, but for a unit that is cheaper than the Forsaken, they're going to do quite well against that unit. So you can see here they're winning very handily for a unit that's cheaper. They're losing on this outside a little bit. These Forsaken are getting crushed. These guys in the middle are winning. You know, you can see we've definitely beaten these Forsaken badly with the Longbeards. Mind you, the Lord was in there, our Lord was in there. We've beaten these Forsaken badly for a unit that's only 650 gold versus a unit that's 750 gold. You know, we have sort of that just under half health. And at the very worst case scenario, we're just about even. 1,700 hit points each. You know, Forsaken start with 5,500. These guys start with 6,400. Yeah. So at the very worst, we're going to be even up. So if we're even up with a unit that costs more, that means we get more value out of that unit. I'm only paying 650 for this unit, and he's paying 750 for this Forsaken. So the Longbeards are a very good matchup for that fight. Now, the one thing Forsaken are really good at is they tear up Slayers. I mean, they just I guess I can show that. So we'll get the Dragonback Slayers, 2 units of regular Slayers, just to show the fight here. Okay. And Slayers are much more expensive. They're 900, and the Dragonback Slayers are 1150. So these Forsaken are incredibly good value in that fight. So let's get these guys. Let's just start the battle. Get these guys here. And we'll get our Lord on their Lord, just so we can watch this fight. So this is a very cost-effective trade for those Forsaken. Never quite goes right, but anyways, they got a 2v1 here, and we have a 2 versus 1 here on these Forsaken. But I have the Dragonback Slayers, but look at how much damage those Dragonback Slayers have taken, and regular Slayers. Like, these guys start at 6,400 and they're less than half health. And that was a 2v1, 2 Slayers versus 1 unit of Forsaken. And these Forsaken are doing a great job against these Slayers. And that's really matters, because these guys are 750, these guys are 900, these guys are 1150. So the Forsaken can't let my Slayers get caught up by Forsaken. But I do need Slayers, so we'll end that battle. And the specific reasons I need to defend another defense against Kolek. So I'm just going to get Kolek Sun Eater here and show that, you know, Kolek is pretty strong. Maybe I'll put him with the magic resistance just to show the demonstration. All right, so we'll start this battle, and regular Slayers can't 1v1 Kolek. They well, maybe they can. In my testing they couldn't, but the Dragonback Slayers can sometimes. So I'll just put these guys back, get these Slayers here, and start that fight with Kolek, so you can see how a regular group of Slayers are going to do against Kolek Sun Eater. And he's going to Lord of the Storm him. They do have magic resistance, so those Slayers, I mean, they have 40% magic resistance. They are going to do some damage to him, but they don't have armor piercing. They just have a really big anti-large, and they do have 16 armor piercing, which isn't too bad. But generally, Kolek is going to win that fight against even one group of Slayers. Looks like they're doing really good in this fight right now so far, but we'll just fast forward it just so we can go to the very end. So there's just not quite enough giddy up with one group of Slayers. Oh, they won, but just barely. So generally they don't, though. Generally with his magic, they will defeat him. But these Dragonback Slayers can reliably defeat Kolek in a one-on-one, or reliably do extremely good. Sometimes these Slayers just get absolutely messed up. So I know I'm going to want Slayers in this, prepared for this battle, very specifically because for his army, where's that Chaos Sorcerer of Death? We expected this guy, not that, and just the Spirit Leech, and the Fate of Buna, and maybe the Forbidden Rod. Yeah, so something like that. And for the infantry, 2 units of Forsaken, 3 units of Chaos Warriors with great weapons, and 2 units of Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes, 2 units of Chaos Warhounds, and potentially a couple of units of Cav. You know, so if this was the basic lineup, I need to have some Slayers in that back line. Slayers are going to do okay against the Knights. They're going to absolutely destroy Warhounds. Marauders, if they get into the fight, he's never going to let them get into melee combat. They will absolutely obliterate Marauders. So for my line, I know I want my Rune Lord on his mount with the Locust of Power, and I do want that Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin. Don't need the missile resistance. And for my front line, so I have my Lord. For my front line, I'm going to want some Ironbreakers. So 3 units of Ironbreakers to match up against those 3 units of Chaos Warriors with great weapons. And then I want 2 units of Longbeards for my edges. So I know that he's probably going to run his front line is going to look something like this, with Forsaken on the edges and Chaos Warriors with great weapons in the front. My line is, I want it to match. The Longbeards against the Forsaken, the Ironbreakers against the Chaos Warriors with great weapons. So this is basically my front line. Now, as I said, for my back line, to put pressure on Kolek, I want Thunderers, 2 units of Bugman's Rangers, and the Othar's Raiders. Now, this is my trap, I guess. This is my entire plan to really do decently in the frontline engagement with these units, so I don't have to worry about them, and then focus down Kolek so that I know I'm not going to kill him, turn will allow it, but to make him so he's no longer a part of the battle, and to make it so he's going to be mucked up in these Ironbreakers if he does get in that fight. So that's my plan. Then these Bugman Rangers, they can take some charges from, you know, because they have charge defense against large. They can take some charges from his cavalry, and they can stand in there with Chaos Warhounds with poison. These Chaos Warhounds are a very, very cost-effective unit, but they can shoot these guys, these Marauder Horsemen, and the Chaos Warhounds, and they're going to do very effective. And they can also shoot the Forsaken because they don't have shields. Again, these guys don't have shields, but these guys have 75 armor and no shields. So figured these Bugman Rangers are very good, and if they get hit with that Lord of the Storm, they do regenerate. So, some edge defense in the Bugman's Rangers so they can defend against the charge and kind of hold their own and spring that trap against Kolak. Now, for the rest of my back line, I thought. I knew I wanted to have the Dragonback Slayers for specifically to fight against Kolak. That was a definite. I'm going to keep those Dragonbacks in case he pulls right through and tries to kill my Lord. I have the Dragonback Slayers to defend my pocket in the center. But I have a lot of units in here. I mean, I have the Thunders, Bugman's Rangers, and Ulthar's Raiders. So I could have looked at going heavy with the Dwarf Warriors, getting 4 units of those, and just letting them passively defend the edges, and try and work it that way. My thinking was, I really want to have a ton of extra pressure in case Kolak goes somewhere else, so I'd get 2 units of Slayers. So really, this is my backline defense, and I'll get... So my backline defense is the 3 units of Slayers. My front line is the Longbeards with the Ironbreakers, and a Longbeards on the other side, and my trap for Kolak is these Uthar's Raiders, because they have really good armor-piercing missile damage, but really for that marked by Uthar, the 22% negative missile resistance and the minus 30 armor to make these Bugman's Rangers more effective. And you see that he has 25% missile resistance. Okay, so the Uthar's Raiders, that marked by Uthar, it mitigates 22% of that 25. So he'll only have 3% missile resistance, and instead of 100 armor, he'll have 70. So I can really make these Bugman Rangers go to work against Kolak and do a lot of damage in a very short amount of time. So, and plus, because I have the magic resistance, this Chaos Sorcerer, his Spirit Leech is going to do absolutely nothing to my Lord at all. And this Fate of Buna will still do some work. I mean, it's a powerful spell, but against 40% magic resistance, it's not going to be as effective. So, and I think I got some chevrons in here, did I do any other abilities? I don't think I did. So, potentially, I think maybe I chevroned up, something like this. I mean, I'm not too sure exactly how I split my chevrons up for the army, but this is really my plan. My army heavily focused on making sure my front line can hold against his front line, making sure I have an answer to Kolak in that Master Rune and Wrathen Rune for that speed debuff, and an answer for the Sorcerer of Death with that extra 15% magic resistance, and something to protect my back line in these Slayers. That was my plan. So that's about it. Hopefully you found this video interesting. I would love to hear some comments down below about the build, what you think, if you've had experience playing as the Dwarfs against Chaos, how that battle's gone. One of the things I know is Chaos has a massive advantage against the Dwarfs, for sure. And, it's almost like a hard counter against the Dwarfs right now. But I think... I don't care. I'm playing the Dwarfs no matter what. I know I've got some hard counters against the Dwarfs and factions that are going to do better and worse, but this is why, we do this sort of planning, as we think about the matchup specifically and where we can use our troops to maximize our performance, even though we do have a significant weakness. So anyways, I want to hear your thoughts on my plan specifically to focus on Kolak, my front line makeup with the Ironbreakers and the Longbeards, and in general my pick, and again what you think turn will bring as well. I would actually be highly interested to see if anyone else kind of picks this army or something very close as something that turn will bring. He could bring those Gorbeast Chariot, but again, if he does, I got some Slayers. I got some answers. I got answers to everything, you know, to as far as I can see it, with the exception of, you know, if he brings, you know, he could bring something, like he could bring hell cannons. If he brings hell cannons, I'm screwed. You know, brings 2 hell cannons in the back, and it will be bye Dowie. There'll be nothing I can do, nothing at all. You know, well, I will go up and fight and bring everyone up there, and you know, obviously that is a concern, and you know, you never know, but I've seen enough games that I think I'm pretty confident that this is going to be the Army makeup. He's going to align front dead center, come right at me, and then just start, you know, flanking and engaging my line. And he's going to engage with Kolek, and then I can spring my trap. You know, Thunders and two Bugman's Rangers with the Othar's Raiders marked by Uthar is going to do a lot of damage. There's nothing you can do to defend against that except for shutting these guys right down. And with some edge defense with the Longbeards and these Slayers, at least I have some way of combating that. So definitely want to hear from you guys down in the comments below. This is one of my favorite parts of doing this, is interacting and listening, because a lot of you guys really think carefully about armies and builds and matchups, and I always learn something in the comments. It's really fascinating to me that I think very deeply about these things. Right or wrong, I'm not always right, but I'm right more than I'm wrong in general. And but even when I have the right idea, you know, I'll get some comments from someone else in the comment section that'll just enhance that. It builds on a good idea and makes it even better. And I find that incredibly interesting and very satisfying, that it's almost like it's got Team Sioux Devil down in the comments helping me improve the Dowie, which I love. So look forward to the comments down below, and hope you found the video interesting and are looking forward to this fight as much as I am. And it'll be online tomorrow morning. I can't wait. Really excited. So with that said, I will see you soon.